Welcome to another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. And I'm your host, Nora Muhammad. Thank you for joining me in episode 269. I wanted to come in and I don't think this episode will be very long, but I wanted to drop a note of encouragement to the viewers and listeners. I pay attention to the news and I specifically pay attention to what uh, Black pundits and spokespeople talk about, what they say, um, how they are giving guidance to our people, what they're saying, and I get a sense that they are using or attempting to use some anxiety or fear, like we're doomed to encourage our people to take action. Now, there are certainly elements that are moving that we should be concerned about. And we should always be concerned about what's happening nationally, globally. But I think our greatest concerns are what's happening locally, right outside our doors, in our homes, in our schools, in our neighborhoods, in our communities. And I find that the political pundits are, these broadcasters are trying to, instill a sense of urgency to get us to act, to call our congressperson, to write letters, to vote for a particular party, to take economic actions against large corporations. And while these activities can have their place, I believe our greatest strength is what we do at home, what we are doing in our communities, in our neighborhoods, what we're doing with our children, and how we're impacting our communities right here where we live. And this is not to say that our leaders, our governors, our state senators, our U.S. senators, our Congress people. This isn't to say that they don't have a place, that we don't make demands on our police departments, on our school district superintendents. However, I think what is most important are the activities that we do, how we are raising our children, the social norms that we are accepting, or rejecting. Um, and, for so long, the guidance to us has been to lift ourselves out of poverty, to create the futures that we want, that we should go to school, get a good education. And that has its place. The goal being that we can, get a good job that pays a good wage, so that we can be okay. And that is good advice for someone that may only be thinking about themselves. Because I think about what happens when you're not hired, what happens when you're fired, or getting a good job with the knowledge and skills that we have so that we can give that skill set, that knowledge and information, that training, to a corporation, that to a business, to interests that are not serving us. What about what we see that happens with students who come to study from other nations? They take that information, those studies, that training, and they go back to meet the needs of their people, from where they're from. One of the issues that I find with us, specifically talking about Black Americans, is that we don't often think of ourselves as a collective, as one, until there's some sort of racial insult, right? Whether it's the Target or the Home Depot, or an unfortunate thing like, what we think is a race-based killing by state actors. Then we come together collectively. Um, but what about coming together collectively to meet our common needs, whether that's the educational system, whether that's public safety, whether that's clean streets? What about those activities that we can really change overnight if we got involved? Um, yes, we can go to school, get a training, get education so that we can get a job that pays us a high wage so that, perhaps we can live outside of a predominantly Black neighborhood where we can feel safe, but are we safe? Right. I think about the young brother, Ahmad Arbery, who was just taking a jog, and that brother's no longer with us. Um, what about him? So our goal can't just be to get a good paying job because maybe the job isn't interested in us. But what about getting that information so that we can find a way to address the common needs that we have in our communities? Um, the same thing with taking economic actions. I don't think that corporations deserve our dollars or our attention if they're not serving our agendas or what we define our agenda to be. And so understanding that is important. But what about when we have these businesses that are owned and operated by Black people? Do we support them outside of a economic action against these large corporations that we don't own? Um, we often neglect our own businesses because for us, many of us, there's a prestige, there's an honor, there's an esteem that goes along with buying brands that cost a lot that are now owned by us, namely Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Chanel. We, take pride in being able to wear red bottoms, right? We take pictures so that everybody can see the red beneath our shoe. What about black bottoms? What about, you know, uh, industries that have us at the face of it, businesses that have us at the face of it? Are we so eager to support them? And often we're not. The saying that we can't get together as Black people and do anything, that's false because we are supporting these businesses in our neighborhoods, specifically in poor neighborhoods. If we were to go around and survey the business owners, then they don't look like us. We keep them in business. Think about those so-called beauty supply stores that we rush into. We get the check and I mean, the block is hot, when it's the first of the month and we're going in these businesses to buy beauty products, hair, nails, you know, uh, so that we can appear to be a certain thing that we're actually not. And they're not hurting for money, right? The liquor stores in the Black community, they're not hurting for money. Um, the stores that sell us fried chicken, they're not hurting for money. We keep them um, doing pretty well because we unite our dollars and we make sure that their children are being sent to good colleges because we are financing them, right? What about if we financed ourselves? What about the Black business in the neighborhood? Yeah, they may be selling the bottle water for 25 cents more, pay 25 cents more. If we had the desire, the will to unite and support each other, we can really change the face of our communities overnight. We can meet the needs of our people overnight. Unfortunately, we are really burdened with the challenge of self hatred, of envy, jealousy, disunity. Um, and until we remedy that, we are really going to be at the mercy of people who are in elected office, governors, police chiefs, mayors. Um, if we had them to reckon with us as a united front, things could be different for us in our communities. Um, but we wouldn't need them so much because we'd be responsible for the safety in our community. We'd be responsible for keeping the streets clean in our community. We'd be responsible for making sure our children are not taking delinquent actions or engaging in criminality because we're holding ourselves accountable, because we're making sure our neighbors, whether they're elderly, are okay or not. We're policing our streets. We're not waiting for a government entity to do for us what we can do for ourselves. So our engagement in our community as a volunteer, as a mentor, um, as a community organizer, that really, really matters. And that matters a lot more than what, edicts a president is issuing from the White House, what bill a governor is signing at the state house, right? That matters what we do. And the idea that we are reliant puts us in such a powerless position when we are really, truly powerful. And, there are so many examples across the globe of people who are working outside of government, outside of politics to achieve the needs, meet the needs of their community. And we can do it too. We have to see ourselves as a collective outside of some racial insult. And we see this in our communities, a shop owner that's not us insults verbally or physically assaults one of our people. We take an action for a few days. And next week, we're back there buying whatever it is that they're selling to us that generally probably isn't good for us. And so we keep these businesses profitable. But what about our profit of having clean streets, having children that are well adjusted, that are making meaningful contributions? And we have to decide that we have to be the models of that. We can't just tell our children what they should do and they don't see us doing it ourselves. We should be the models of that to them, showing them how to be good neighbors, showing them how to be good parents, showing them how to be responsible for what's happening outside our doors and not uh, retraining or training another generation to just be helpless and powerless and totally dependent upon government. Yeah, there are things that are happening in the world that should concern us, that can concern us. But what about our concern for what's happening right outside our doors? This is something that I've shared on this podcast many times. I believe in personal accountability. I believe in taking responsibility. I believe in, empowering ourselves. And in fact, we are powerful. We have just been directed to channel that energy into efforts that really don't profit us. And so rather than being a social media warrior, um, a, 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 a you know, evangelical for gossip and nonsense and celebrity and pop culture, what about being a voice about the positive change and impacts that are happening in our community and about getting behind people who are leading those efforts and getting involved with those efforts ourselves? um, if we are concerned about what's happening and we address those concerns, our communities, in the face of our communities, the safety of our communities, the impact of the education for our children, it can really change overnight. We don't have to rely on others to do for us what we can and we should do for ourselves. So, we have to eradicate the self hatred, the jealousy, the envy that cripples us. It keeps us um, um, uh, inactive. It keeps us ineffective. It keeps us in an impotent position and posture where other people can come with their unity and take whatever action that they want right under our noses, right under our feet. And all we are doing is throwing rocks at the wind, having no impact because we have no unity. So it is time for us to act. It is time for us to be responsible. And I discourage using fear, panic, and anxiety as a tactic to get our people to move. I think that we should look around our communities, look outside our doors, look at our young people. What is it that they need? What is it that we need? What do our neighbors need? And begin acting on that, and showing just how powerful we can be. I want to thank you for listening to this episode 269 of the podcast. We have to recognize our strength and our power and know that we do have the capable, the knowledgeable men and women to address the needs in our community. We just have to recognize it and we have to enact on it, just like we see other people doing. This episode is about accountability, responsibility, and doing for self. Thank you again for listening. Make sure you follow and subscribe on YouTube. Let others know about the podcast. Share it, leave a comment. I would love to know what you think. Until next time, stay in peace.
We were brought here as a piece of property. And to keep that piece of property, it is to not allow the property to know the value of the property. And what I mean by that, if you had known the history of yourself, you would not have been made a slave. And you won't be a slave now if you have a knowledge of yourself. It's hard to enslave a person that have equal knowledge with you. You just can't do it. And so this knowledge of yourself is the thing that will free you from what you have been suffering from.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Nora Speaks. Look out for a new episode coming at you fresh next week. And if you want to learn more about me and the work that I do, you can visit my website, noraspeaks.com. Or if you have a listener question, you can email me at nora@noraspeaks.com. Follow Nora Speaks on X, Instagram, and Facebook at Nora Speaks, or you can subscribe to the Nora Speaks YouTube channel. I will be sure to include links in the show notes. If Nora Speaks has value to you, please subscribe, rate, and review, and share with family and friends. And be sure to check out previous episodes. And remember, don't just join the movement, be the movement. Stay in peace.